Hey guys, I'm back to do another character review. Like I mentioned in my last video, this time my friend and I are doing Tiana from The Princess and the Frog and Odette from The Swan Princess. He just did his Tiana video. Yesterday I did my Tiana video the day before that, and he did his Odette video the day before that. And I'm here today to do my Odette video as a request from Kristen Fan 10109, I believe is her username. Anyway, I just finished, watching the Swan Princess, for only the second time in my life. I watched it on TV one time, a couple of months ago, and I rewatched it again earlier today to make sure I understood everything. And I have to say, it's a good movie. Probably not one of my absolute favorites, but still a really good movie. Anyway, on with the review. The complaints are, she's an unoriginal Disney ripoff, she's stupid, she's a useless, spineless damsel in distress that does nothing. She's bland and boring. She has no personality. She's passive. She falls in love with Derek out of nowhere despite the fact that he bullied her all her life and only loves her for her looks. She lets Derek treat her like a doormat, and her relationship with Derek was done poorly. Okay, starting with the whole, she's an unoriginal Disney ripoff. I've noticed that this complaint gets thrown around a lot for practically any fairy tale or princess story that isn't Disney. Like this movie, Quest for Camelot, Anastasia, even though I'm not a fan of Anastasia. That is one complaint about it that I disagree with. Why does it being a princess slash fairy tale movie automatically make it a Disney ripoff? I need you to take a moment and think. Not many, there really aren't many Disney movies, when you think about it, that are actually fairy tale princess movies. I mean, you've got, your official Disney princess movies. You've got a couple of others, like, Black Cauldron, Atlantis, and some other fantasy ones, like Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan, and Pinocchio, which I suppose are arguably fairy tales. And then you've got some, then you've got, like, the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, the Three Musketeers, which had Minnie playing a princess in it. But those are about the only ones I can think of off the top of my head that fall into, like, the, fairy tale or princess category. Other than that, you've got, like, the talking animal movies, like, Dumbo, Bambi, Fox and the Hound, Rescuers and Rescuers Down Under, Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company. And Lion King. You've also got your ones that don't really fit either category, like Hunchback. Based off of not novels that were written a long time ago, not non-fantasy novels written a long time ago. So, if how since Disney isn't mostly made up of fairy tales, how is being a fairy tale or a princess movie like Swan Princess, Quest for Camelot, or Anastasia, how does that automatically make it a ripoff of it? I mean, in that sense, something like An American Tail would be should automatically be a ripoff of The Rescuers or The Great Mouse Detective. Did you ever think about that? I mean, the Swan Princess is basically based off of a fantasy fairy tale story that's very similar plot-wise to your average Disney princess fairy tale story. So it is very similar to a Disney princess movie, but that doesn't make it a ripoff. I mean, Disney doesn't own the formula to that. I mean, practically all fairy tales and princess stories have a pretty similar similar formula. So, just because it's similar to a certain type of Disney movie, that doesn't make it a ripoff. And even if they were copying Disney a little bit, that really that really is kind of a weak reason to dislike her and her movie. Because she is very different from your average Disney heroine at the time. When the movie was made, she's not your rebellious action girl like Ariel, Jasmine, Pocahontas, and Mulan. She's, I'd say, a lot more similar to Cinderella. So I wouldn't really call her a Disney ripoff. Her movie might have been copying Disney a little bit, but so what? Sorry for rambling on. She's stupid. How? How is she stupid? Uh, I mean, yeah, I suppose that she could have tried to figure out a way out of the lake before her puffin friend showed up, but um, this is a fairy tale, and it runs a lot more on emotion than logic. And stupid is a complaint that gets thrown around way too much. Way too much. And, I mean, like, Ariel being stupid because she goes to, Ursula for help, Merida being stupid because she goes to the witch to change her mother, Snow White being stupid because she took the apple, yeah, there are a bunch of them. Tiana being stupid because she kissed a talking frog. Belle being stupid because she went into the West Wing after Beast told her not to. All of those. And, as I've said many times, making an arguably stupid decision does not make one stupid. It makes them human. And you have to take into consideration with Odette that she was raised in a pampered palace life and didn't really know a lot about the outside world and didn't really have any idea about how to set up a strategy or to escape from the lake while she was under the spell. Until her puffin friend came along and who had had a lot of experience and gave her an idea. I mean, to me it seems pretty smart that she at least considered the fact that she might get shot by a hunter and that sort of thing. I mean, if she was out there and she turned back into a swan, there's no telling what would happen to her. I mean, you saw how Derek tried to shoot at her when he didn't know who she was. So, to me, she's not so much stupid, but more ignorant and inexperienced with the outside world, and pretty helpless in the situation where she is. And even if you do want to chalk that up to being a stupid decision, making a stupid decision does not make one stupid. So, nice try, but, whether you want to call that a stupid decision or not, that still doesn't make her a stupid character. She's useless and a spineless... She's a useless and spineless damsel in distress who doesn't do anything. Excuse me. How? Like I just mentioned, she's in a pretty helpless situation and can't really do anything. She doesn't really have any experience, fighting. But, I mean, when, Robarth, I think is his name, when the, when the villain comes and, is constantly proposing her so that he'll be king, she always stands her ground and says that she'd rather die than marry her and hand over her father's kingdom, than marry him and hand over her father's kingdom to him. I mean, to me that's pretty brave. To me that's pretty brave of her, and to stand her ground like that, because she doesn't have any idea what he'll do to her, how he'll torture her into getting her to marry him and that kind of stuff. I mean, not every character, male or female, has to be wielding a sword or kicking butt to be a strong character. So, to me, this seems more like a real nitpicky complaint from those feminists that are bound-hanged and determined that they're going to be the dominant gender and kick the butt of every of every man on the planet. Yeah, she is somewhat of a passive character, more so than most of the female characters that were made in her time period, like Mulan and Pocahontas and even Jasmine and Ariel. But I still think that she's plenty strong. It's just more in her words and vocally than physically. And yeah, I know that her sidekicks do help her and do rescue her, but so what? Um, I mean, sidekicks are always helping and saving the hero and heroine. I mean, I don't really see that as a big deal, and I don't really see that it makes her any less strong a character. Just because you have some friends helping you, I don't really see that makes you any less strong a character. I mean, if you look at a character like Mulan, her friends save her and Shang from the avalanche, but I don't really see that makes her any less strong a character. She's bland and boring. I've gone over this a lot. Boring is an extremely subjective term, and I can understand it to some extent with her, since she's not really an action girl. I mean, I can understand it. I can understand it with her more than I can with other characters that I've reviewed. But so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but boring is a very subjective term. It's very much in the eye of the beholder. I don't really see her as boring. To me, she's quite an interesting character. And I do think that we get to see a lot of her inner struggle and that sort of stuff. And I actually prefer that a lot more to, action. But just because I personally like her, that doesn't mean everybody does. So, boring is in the eye of the beholder. If you find her boring, that's your opinion. I don't. I think that she's quite an interesting character and definitely has some depth and layers to her. She has no personality. Really? Like I just said, I think that she's a really interesting character, and that we get to see a lot of, her inner struggle and that sort of thing. Ever since the Nostalgia Critic did his review of the Swan Princess, people have basically decided that Odette has no personality. I'm sorry, but how? I mean, no, I don't think that she is the most complex character in the universe, but, no offense to the Nostalgia Critic, if you're watching this, as much as I like you, you label way too many characters as having no personality. I mean, like, Lola Bunny from Space Jam. No, she doesn't have, she doesn't have the most well-developed personality, due to her lack of screen time, but she definitely has a personality. And if you want to know my thoughts on her, you can watch my Lola Bunny review, but she has a definite personality. Anyway, back to Odette. I really don't think that there's such a thing as a character with no personality, unless you're talking about a very, 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 very minor background character that has maybe 1 or 2 lines. I mean, even a character like, Snow White's prince, I think has a personality. Not much of one, and not a very well-developed one, but I think he's got a personality. So, to me, the thing about a character having no personality gets thrown around way too much. So, some characters have more personality than others, some characters have less personality than others, some have a more complex personality, some have less complex, some have a better developed, some don't have a very well developed, whatever. But practically every character has a personality, and Odette is no exception. Like I said, she has a very well-developed personality, a pretty deep personality, with a lot of layers to her, and I think that we get to know a lot about her based on the inner struggles that we get to see while she's a swan, and that sort of thing. So, she's far from having no personality. Not the most complex personality in the world, but far from no personality. she's passive. Like I mentioned before, she is somewhat passive. I wouldn't say that she's as passive as, like, Cinderella or Snow White, but she is somewhat passive. Her strength comes more from her words than her actions. I wouldn't say that she's completely passive to the point where she lets people walk all over her and that sort of thing. She's just not the action girl, as I've mentioned before, like, Ariel, Jasmine, Mulan, Pocahontas, and even to some extent Anastasia that you saw in, like, the 80s and 90s. And during the time period that her movie was made. So she is more passive than the average animated heroine that was made in that time period. But I wouldn't say that she's as passive as than the Disney classic heroines like Snow White, Cinderella, and Aurora. Because she definitely does stand up for herself. And, and says that she would rather die than to marry Robarth and give him her father's kingdom. So, to an extent, she is passive, more so than most heroines that were around in her time period, but I wouldn't say extremely passive. She falls in love with Derek out of nowhere, despite the fact that he bullied her all her life and only loved her for her looks. Okay, I wouldn't say that it came out of nowhere. If you watch the song where they're growing up together, you can tell that they do like each other. They're just going through ages where boys are gross and girls are gross and that kind of thing, and they don't want to admit that they like each other. So, I wouldn't say that their love came out of nowhere. I think that they always kind of liked each other, they just didn't want to admit it. And as far as him only liking her for her looks, I think that he always did love her. He just didn't know really how to express it. I mean, he admitted pretty soon after he said, "What more is there?" That was a stupid thing to say. I mean, I do think that it could have been. I do think that their relationship could have been handled a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, I probably would have had him apologize for saying that. And that sort of thing, but, it's pretty obvious that he that he didn't just like her for her looks, because he said that he said pretty soon afterwards that was a pretty stupid thing to say. He just didn't really know how to express his love for her. And that's part of him maturing as a character. You know, learning how to express his love for her. And even if he did just like her for her looks at that point, it's pretty obvious that he grew out of it by the end of the movie. Because, I mean, he risks his life to save her. Why would you do that for a girl that you just liked for her looks? So, while I do think that their relationship could have been handled a little bit better, I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say that it's awful, and I wouldn't say that the love just came out of nowhere, or that he just likes her for her looks, especially by the end of the movie. She lets Derek treat her like a doormat. How? I mean, all through the opening song where they're playing pranks on each other and that sort of thing, she gets the best of him a lot of times. So I don't really see... I don't really see that, she lets him, treat her like a doormat. And, I mean, after that, he spends pretty much the rest of the movie hunting for the beast that got her and risking his life to save her, so I don't really see that, he treats her like a doormat. I mean, neither of them were interested in marrying each other at first, so I don't really see that. And were... Neither of them were interested in marrying each other at first, and were sort of waiting for the other one to be the first to say yes. So I don't really see that he's treating her like a doormat any more than she was treating him like one. And I mean, when they're kids, they're both going around playing pranks on each other and, getting the best of each other, so I don't really see how he's treating her like a doormat there, and the rest of the movie, pretty much all he does is hunt down the thing that got her and risk his life for her, so I definitely don't see that as treating her like a doormat. I don't know where this complaint came from, sorry. Her relationship with Derek is done poorly. Like I mentioned before, it's not the best done relationship. I think that they could have shown them falling in love a little bit. Shown them falling in love and going from kids that thought that the other one was gross a little bit more slowly. And probably had Derek apologize for saying what else is there about her looks. I think it could have been handled a little bit better, but There are definitely worse relationships, like, Anna and Kristoff, which literally comes out of no frickin' where. Anastasia and Dmitri, again, no frickin' where. I mean, in the movie Anastasia, their relationship basically goes from hate to him liking her for her looks when she tries on a dress and does her hair, and she starts liking him I don't even know when she finds out he didn't take the money or something. That's gotta be one of the worst. That's gotta be one of the worst done love-hate relationships I've ever seen. Anna and Kristoff, not much better. After the rock trolls sing about them, sing to them, they suddenly like each other. Yeah, there are much worse ones than Derek and Odette. I definitely wouldn't say that it's the best developed relationship, but pretty far from the worst too. There are definitely some things that I would have done differently with it. I would have done it a little bit more slowly and that sort of thing, but if you're gonna dislike her just because the relationship isn't as good as it could have been, that's pretty weak and nitpicky in my opinion. Anyway, that's about all I have to say about her. Like I said, I've only seen the movie twice, and it's a good movie. I really like the character Odette. I'll have to watch it a few more times before I decide her placement in my favorite animated heroines and the movie in my favorite animated movies, and before I understand some of the other things about it. The link to my the link to my Friends 2 videos will be in the description box below, and the link to my first video will also be there. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye, see you next time.